Okay, thank you. I can hear there's loud applause because I think I'm the last project. So first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Adam. I'm the CVO, Chief Vision Officer of Swipe. But before I start, I'd like to ask you guys a very simple question, okay? Have you ever had like an ex-girlfriend, a crazy ex-girlfriend who actually tracks your every move, your every message, and every menace, which means that they know everything that's going on in your phone, right? Because I had them. I'm sure there's a lot of giggling, nods at the back, and you guys definitely have that as well. The problem is, you might have the same stalker as I do. And one thing, a disclaimer, is that your stalker will not go away. Because these people are your stalker. Whether it's Facebook, Uber, Chrome, they basically track your everything, right? They basically track where you are, what you're doing, what kind of messages you are doing, and that is the problem today. But why do you need to care about the data privacy as well as the data market? Simple. Because the whole data market, the privacy, your privacy, is worth $708 billion. And of course, on top of that, 70% of that data comes from mobile. More importantly, there's a butterfly effect of it. And that costs all of us $3 trillion a year. That's a huge amount. Don't just let me say it. Let's take a look at some things. We have Trump winning the election due to data privacy issues. We also have our app that is supposed to protect us, right? The problem is that when they are supposed to protect us from malware, they are also downloading all your browser history to China. And we all know that, the Chinese government, sometimes we need to be a little bit aware because even they admit the fact that they can actually retrieve WeChat deleted messages, and that is something huge. And you see, giggles means we all can agree to it. So let me introduce the problems of today's data industry, okay? It's very simple. The users and the app developers are uninformed. Basically, they don't know who is using their data. If let's say some pharmaceutical company is doing human testing without your knowledge, but your data is being used by it, I'm pretty sure you'll get pissed off by it, right? Because I know I would. And the thing is that is unfair because these mega players, centralized data intermediaries, are so big that they can shove their pricing down your throat, no matter which app you are, unless you are mega apps itself. If you are a small app, you are a medium-sized app, they will shove their price down your throat itself, and you have no choice but to accept it. And of course, it's obviously not auditable. So let me introduce you our vision, trustless as the new data economy. Of course, we are not saying that Swipe is able to do everything in this new trustless data economy, but let me share with you one part of our solution itself. We are building a blockchain infrastructure for any mobile applications. We want to do three main things. We want to help you collect, we want to make sure there's consent, and there's compliance. Simple enough. But let me share with you how we're going to do it. Something really simple. Our Swipe SDK itself, it can be as simple as 2 to 3 lines of codes, right, that we implement into each of the software, each of the apps itself to start collecting and validating the data that is being collected. So with that, we know there's not going to be any more fake data. And this is a scalable adoption because it can be put into any apps out there, small size, mid size. I know the big size apps might not use us, but that's where we are starting from, right? The small and the mid size app itself. Our privacy and data sharing protocol, this is one very important part because we put our user consent and privacy management via a proxy re-encryption technique with smart contract itself. And that ensures fairness inside there. Last but not least, our compliance framework is designed for global privacy compliance like GDPR and PDPA. And more importantly, what we are trying to say to you guys is the rights to your data, right, is yours to say who is using it and how they are using it. It's your rights. But at the end of the day, last but not least, before I go to the next slide, with every blockchain infrastructure app itself, a blockchain infrastructure project, what we want to say is adoption is king. So let me show you a little bit more about adoption. What's the adoption that we have? We have over 20 apps already committed to integrating our SDK with access to 2 million users in Southeast Asia. I know compared to China, small amount, but in Southeast Asia, this is our first step. We are not saying that this is the end. We're saying as a first step, there's 2 million users already. Of course, why do these app developers want to work with us? Simple cases, better knowledge, insights of users, additional revenue from data monetization, and of course, organic growth. I want to show 3 examples over here. You can see over here, first of all, this is owned and operated by us, Cepat Swipe Agler's Reward, with more than 700,000 users. Second of all, we work with app studios. We don't just work with single apps to grow. We work with app studios. We have multiple apps under them. And Bada Interactive App Studio has over 700,000 users. But we have one very interesting app over here who is completing the whole thing of our ecosystem, because Sepusa is a growing app, 500,000 in one single country of Indonesia. It's considered a mid-sized app. Not only are they contributing data to us, they are also data buyers. Why? Because they want to find out a little bit more about the users that's on their platform in the market of Indonesia, because they're competing in that space. So they are data contributors, data buyers, and on top of that, they are completing the ecosystem by becoming our marketplace partner, because now people with Swipe can actually go up there and actually exchange for mobile top-ups. And we know that in Indonesia, 90% of this market is using prepaid cards. So we're going to share with you a little bit more things about our buy side. We have mentioned the sell side. Let's go to the buy side. We have GMO Research, which is a listed company. Some of you who is on your phone, you can check it out right now, Google GMO Research. And you can see that it's a listed company that's partnered with us, Swipe. And of course, we have Panelem from China. We have Performas, who is actually a marketing agency, okay, a research marketing agency that actually use our data to work with Sony, Samsung, and Lotte to go into the Indonesian market and Southeast Asia. Same thing for Aecon itself, who actually goes into Citibank, works with Citibank, UOB, FedEx, brands that all of us know about it. But more importantly, we also want to share with you how our token economy works. There are 4 players in this: our app users, app developers, data buyers, as well as our marketplace partners itself. That's rather easy to understand. Of course, users and app developers is able to earn reward by contributing data. We actually pay for our products with all these 3 players. And last but not least, right, we want to share a little bit more about staking, because this is actually a very important part. For staking-wise, for app users, it's rather simple. You actually stake to actually gain access to special campaigns such as premium survey, that you get more rewards for it. Okay, second part for app users, app developers. Okay, use stake tokens to prioritize data monetization. Why is that so? As this network grows, now we have 20 apps. When there's 200 apps, 400 apps, you can see data space can be similar. For example, if FMCG like Nestle is targeting 18 to 24 years old, am I right to say that maybe 50% of all the apps have access to that? What they do is that when you stake your tokens, or Swipe tokens itself, you are able to actually prioritize your data, the kind of data that you have on your app, to be monetized. And that is where we see, when there's more data, app developers, it generates more data. With more data generated, we can attract more data buyers. And more data buyers means that data app developers have to do staking, and therefore causing 3 effects. Diversity in our token holders, velocity for the amount of data purchased and tokens that must be bought. And last but not least, creating the scarcity that we need to create a fantastic token economy. And of course, this is our roadmap. Right now, we have built our we already have our MVU released. Okay, blog post on Google Play Store. You can actually check it and download it right now. It's pending iOS. Next thing is actually our testnet API. What is that? Because our privacy API is now on developer.swipecrypto.com. It's deployed on Coven testnet. So you can test it out right now, today, that we have something working for you. And of course, by 2019, second quarter, we want to establish our version 1.0 by working with our early adopters of app developers as well as app data buyers. And by 2020, over here itself, we want to be able to do a secure multi-party computing analytic nodes. And that is where we are moving towards too. But all of this is not possible without a fantastic team who have ability to create adoption and implementation. And this comes from this team that we have right here. A solid team who has handled multi-million government data tenders. From companies like IBM and Lenovo, which is my CEO, Clifford, and my CTO, who's sitting behind, he's coming up later. Okay, he's from Singtel and NCS. He is handling healthcare data for the government of Singapore as a part of the tender that he has done in the past. We have Kuei, who is just our CSO, also from Singtel NCS, handling telco data. Ian is actually from McKinsey, is a COO handling our operations in Indonesia. I'm a serial entrepreneur, obviously, focusing a little bit more on marketing. That's why I'm here. Last but not least, we actually have someone very interesting, analytics consultant Rebecca Tan. I'm going to hold here because you're going to let this absorb in a little bit, because this lady over here is an ex-AC Nelson managing director in Singapore for 18 years. Okay, that's the fantastic part about it. Of course, at the same time, we want to introduce some of our partners, our advisors, because we can't do it alone. We have John and Jehan, who is actually helping out with our token economy. We have Sean, who is helping us with our community. Tom, who is helping out with our marketing. Joshua for treasury management. Yaron for tech. Ivo for advertisement. The four gentlemen below is very interesting because Jeffrey Joe is actually managing director of Alpha JWC, one of the top leading VCs in Indonesia. He has successfully brought startups to exit via SoftBank. Maganin and Devi owns the largest out-of-home media in in Indonesia. Focus Media, Billboards, you say it, they own it. Last but not least, Edit is actually, he owns most of the traditional media in Jakarta, Indonesia, TV, newspaper. This is who are the people we are playing the game with. With that, I'd like to say, thank you very much. My name is Adam, CVO of Swipe. Thank you. For the questions, I know there might be some technical questions, so I'm going to invite my CTO up on stage to be able to help me answer any tech questions that you guys might have. Any questions?
The data marketplace, there's a lot of projects and making real demand for real demand for the data is I think it will be very, very difficult. So for selling right data, you should define the right scheme of the data, how to structure the scheme.
Sorry, can you go back to the... Sure. Yeah. So, sorry, next one, roadmap. Thanks. I think as you're aware, I think we shared earlier that we have data partners. We are partnering with 4 market research company in this that focuses on this particular region. So we are aware that we are collecting a lot of data. I mean, your phone, your devices collect a lot of data. And then we're also totally aware that in order to make it more reusable, in order to build data package, we need to understand the schema. We need to be able to build the schema. And if you look at it, during the initial period, during Q3, this is where we actually, this is where we're actually building our capability, showing that we can deliver stuff. And then Q4, this is where we are working together with our early adopters. We start to collect all the data, so at least we know all the raw data, what sort of quantity that we have, right? And the subsequent one on Q1 19, the target is actually to work together with the industry partners, with the market research company, to build a relevant use case, to build a relevant schema. Yeah, I hope it answers, yeah.
Can I add a little bit more? I think the thing about data projects out there itself, sometimes they don't mention about how they do the collection of it. They just say that the data magically appears out of nowhere and you are able to sell it. But we actually focus a lot on the concentration of collection and validating this data. And that's how we work with our data partners to actually know what kind of data is collected and what kind of data do the data buyers actually want. I think that's one very important point that we would like to highlight.
As an end user, how do I control what data I share and how do I monetize that data myself?
Our SDK will come with a few settings here. The first one is the reject all data. I don't want to contribute any data at all. With that per se, we are literally becoming some sort of like provider of incognito mode, like in your Google Chrome browser, but for mobile app. Right? But there's also another simpler setting that I'm willing to contribute all my data. And then you can go for a more advanced mode whereby you can select what sort of data you want to contribute and also basically opt in or opt out for the campaign that you want to participate in. So all those kind of UI, all these things will be built inside the SDK itself. Basically, during the earlier stage, what we're going to do is more of redirecting the user from the SDK to go to our website because that will be the easier way. Otherwise, I think we'll struggle with creating a page or something that will blend nicely with all the apps out there. That will be very challenging. So it will be on the website.
So, but this means that the SDK means that it will be built into the third-party apps. So if I choose to monetize part of my data, where do I receive my tokens?
Okay. Basically, you'll receive basically all the tokens will actually be allocated within our wallet at this moment, right? And then when you when you want to, let's say, exchange it to certain item in the marketplace, let's say you want to exchange in Indonesia, let's say you want to, with, let's say, 35 cents of USD, you can actually exchange with mobile top-up loads. That is where actually we will transfer that particular swipe token to the rewards partners. I think the way you look at it is I mean, I mean, a lot of data will worth a lot of value, right? And also very specific data also can be worth a lot of value. But at the same time, we are also aware that we need to look at how economically viable and what sort of let's say public blockchain that we need to build on to ensure that this particular business work by itself, or we may even need to explore something like private chains to a certain extent, right?
Let's say the people are posted their data to this blockchain a lot, really a lot.
No, actually we never store the data into the blockchain. Right?
Okay.
So the data is actually stored in decentralized storage. At the moment on the testnet, it's actually being stored at IPFS. It doesn't mean that we must always use IPFS. We have some enterprise implementation that is intended for Indonesia Central Bank that makes use of S3. But the different thing is that any data that come up from or SDK is already fully encrypted. So we actually has no idea about the data as well. And then when it is being shared to someone else, actually what happens is that someone else will need to pass the public key and user will need to generate the re-encryption key for them. Yeah. So we basically use, I think Adam mentioned earlier about proxy re-encryption. We use the PRE and AES GCM algorithm to achieve this. Yeah. The maximum file size, data size that we can encrypt using this is 64 gig per one data set. Yeah.
Then who covers the maintenance fee of storing the data?
Okay, so okay, that's a very good question actually. So within our own, obviously, some of the fund that is raised and all those things, we has to be the one that handle the maintenance of this particular, to cover the cost of this particular storage of this particular data. Yeah. Yeah.
Can your SDK intercept every application's transmit data? Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
First thing first, I mean, we can intercept the data from the phone sensors. Yes, that one we can do that as long as the application gives that the necessary permission, right? And at the same time, we also allow app developer to pass us additional data based on whatever basically more like, let's say, to begin with, we will allow demographic for app to actually pass the demographic data to us to tell us, let's say, this particular user belongs to which data age group, whether it's male or female, yeah. And if let's say we also allow them to pass us like some of the browsing behavior information, such as like, okay, they like to access this particular information, this particular URL or this particular interest. It's more like a tagging, basically. Yeah. We allow them to tag. We provide some default tagging, and they can basically allow to put in all the value. But to basically intercept the data from the sensor is not an issue as long as the app has that particular permission.